Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Valkyrie and Centurions. Welcome to Arch City Comics. This is CG Jumpstart Between the Panels. I am your host, Adam AF. Joining me, as always, we have the man Tinfoil Hat Nick.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to CG Jumpstart.
Our esteemed guests of honor this evening, we have the one and only, the man behind the madness that is the magazine CG Jumpstart. You may know him as the Wizard of War Campaign, Mr. GAT HANZO.
Hail, brothers, man. I like that introduction, man.
Thank you.
Great. That's great, brother. Hail.
I've been rehearsing that all day, honestly.
Nice. Hail. I like it.
We have also joined by a very esteemed artist currently working on Super Harem by Matt Wenger. He's also got his own project coming up in CG Jumpstart that we're going to talk about a little bit later called Death, Death, Death. It is Joe Ball.
Hey, hail, brothers! It's good to be here tonight.
Oh, it's good to have you here. I don't think I've actually ever had you on for an official interview.
Yeah, it's one of those things we've tried to do like 6 or 7 times, and something always messes it up. And this time, nope, gonna make it work. I'm here.
That's right, hell or high water, man. This is Between the Panels, the most important show of the week.
Very much, yes.
Hail. Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I think you guys have done a great job so far. I mean, I stopped in for most of the shows, man. And I think you're providing a service for Comicsgate here by really letting people know what this magazine's all about. You know, they don't have to wonder what it's about when you have an entire show dedicated to it every week. So I want to thank you guys once again for putting this on, man. Hail.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
It is 100% our pleasure. This is my favorite day of the week. I love getting to see for myself a sneak peek inside the magazine and getting to show other people what this magazine is going to be about to get everybody as pumped as possible when this drops later this year or beginning of next year.
Yeah.
Whatever time allows.
I think it's looking beginning of next year more likely. I guess I can give a little update on Vestige while we're here. I've been doing the final revisions with Somni, and so it's basically already lettered. We're doing some little minor corrections here and there, trying to make the thing perfect. At that point, here in the next week, we start talking to printers. Of course, we still have to order the posters and the stickers for you guys as well, so we'll be doing that shortly. And yeah, I mean, here I think here in maybe the next week or two, we will actually be going to print. And then shortly after that, as soon as I get those things, I'm shipping them out. So I can't wait to ship Vestige out to everyone. I've seen it, and it looks great. I know everyone's going to be pleased with the work. The whole entire team that worked on it is amazing. This thing is exactly how I wanted it to be. I couldn't ask for a better turnout. We hit 73K. We beat the bunny, right? I mean, that's about as good as it gets, brother. So, yeah, update on Vestige. It's coming. We're trying to make it this month. At that point, we're looking at probably around Christmas time before I actually receive them, I would say. So, do we take the chance and start mailing them out? I don't know. We're still going to decide. But they're coming. These damn things are coming, brother. So, be ready.
Perfection takes time, man. Perfection takes time. There's no point in rushing a quality book like Vestige or any other quality Comicsgate project out there. Take your time, do it right, make sure the backers get more than what they expected in the long run.
Exactly. Well, that's the most important thing as well. We're exploring some options for a cool cover too. We talked about embossing it, which we were going to do, but if we can give you something cooler than that, we're going to do that. So we're still exploring some options. We're going to figure it out and give you an awesome product regardless. So, I mean, everyone's going to be happy with what they get. And then, yeah, once that's done, this is where we're talking about tonight, right? We're moving right back into CG Jumpstart, which should be launching beginning of next year. We want this to be the winter edition. So that's the plan for now, We're going to have to get those. It falls on me to get Vestige out. So if I got to stay up for, 16 hours a day, packing books until they're done. If I got to do it in 2 or 3 days and get it done, I'll do it, right? Just to get Jumpstart going. We don't want to kind of waste any more time on this project either, because as I'm going to be talking about later, Bulletmakers also going to be right right after CG Jumpstart. So we got a bunch of projects, and when they launch, the key is that they're going to be finished from now on. So when we launch Jumpstart, this thing will be ready to go, ready to print. No bullshitting around from this point forward.
That's a good model. You know, your first campaign, you know, you're not quite ready. You don't have those funds in your back pocket to, you know, get shit right out the door like that. But you have a big successful first project, and then that's how you build your audience therefore out. You got, you know, a 60-day campaign, maybe a month in demand, and then boom, those books are in people's hands. And as we found out, you can actually keep a book in demand and ship at the same time. So that's always an option too in the long run.
Well, yeah, and that's what we were told as well. You know, we got the advice to go ahead and fulfill our campaign, which we're going to do, of course. And then, but go ahead and leave the book in demand itself, because once people actually receive Vestige and everyone starts showing it to everyone, that, you know, I think other people are going to want to buy it. So we're going to keep it in demand for a little while, at the very least, after, you know, people are getting their books. So that if, or people still kind of wondering on the fence about it, and they kind of want to see the other people's reaction to it first, that they can still go and buy it. We'll give them a little extra time. I think eventually we will shut it down at some point, right? But there's no reason for us not to keep it open, at least for a few months after we've actually fulfilled the campaign.
Yeah, I agree. That's I mean, why not try to make more money?
Yep.
That's what, you know, that's kind of what the point is. You want to
Exactly.
put some money in your pocket. You like to be doing this full time. You get to quit your day job and just make comic books.
Well, yeah, I mean, isn't that the dream, I think, for anyone in Comicsgate to be able to get to that level?
That's the dream, man.
So that's what we're trying to do here, you know. The only way you can do it, though, is, like you just said, kind of taking your first project, even if it is a little late, fulfilling it, making sure your customer is happy, and then flipping that into stuff that you can really get finished before you launch, right? And that's what we're going to do from this point forward. Bulletmaker is going to be totally inked. It might not be totally colored by the time we launch, maybe. I don't know. I would like for it to be. That's the plan. But at the very least, it's going to be inked. That way we got that month or two to get it colored, and the damn thing should be about done. People don't have to wait an extra, 3 to 6 months on a book anymore. They can get it within anywhere from 60 to 90 days. I think that's appropriate. So
I think that'll create more backers in the long run. People not waiting 6 months to a year plus to get a book in hand.
Yeah, it's just too long, man. And some people can do it. Some of the bigger name guys. I mean,
sure.
That's just the way it is, man. They can do those things, right? But guys who are kind of up and coming, or maybe middle of the pack, I think they should go along the same route we're going and go ahead and get those books done, before you even launch.
I think that's good advice. Very good advice. I'm going to take a second here to shout out to the chat. Our early comers, we had Nella Possessed. Panboy was here. Felix Haas, Mr. Yonofui. Cider Hype. We have the Mogwai Centurion. Hail. Simon Simpotier. Hail, brother. Glad you could make it. Skits Comics also hanging about. Real Steve Dye, of course, is making sure we don't spoil too much.
Yep.
And I see the real It's McGee is here. Hail, McGee. So what we're looking at now, we have the this is a gift that 3D Robin put together. That GAT actually put on the promo for tonight's show. That is, I think, a neat little teaser here.
I was gonna say that's 3D Robin's logo. Actually, I made the gift. That's okay. We can give 3D Robin credit for that too. This 3D Robin, I want to give him a shout out real quick while we're talking about it. I mean, he's done some amazing work on Jumpstart. A lot of the interior graphical design work is done by him. He's also going to be doing a few things on one of my projects I'm doing with Sim. I think we're going to have him do a little color graphical work in that. I don't know exactly what we're going to do yet, but it's not going to be a totally colored crash course at this point. But 3D Robin's going to tinker around with it, and actually, I don't want to give too much away. I've already said too much, but it's going to be cool. How about that? But 3D Robin's awesome. Shout out to him. A lot of the cool stuff you're seeing in the magazine and all of my logos. He even touched up the Vestige logo, which was originally created by Betty Bright Eyes. Rip Betty, right? We all miss Betty.
We do.
But yeah, he touched up the Vestige logo as well, and all my logos that's going to be on my new projects are done by 3D Robin. So huge shout out to him.
Yeah, he's hella talented. A lot of talent in that guy. And honestly, it goes without saying, if it's in CG Jumpstart, it's going to be amazing.
Yes.
Just get that out of the way. Every project that we've talked to, this is our seventh episode. Every creator that we've talked to GAT a couple times because you've got a lot of projects in the book.
Yeah.
But honestly, this one, Bulletmakers, I think stands apart from honestly just about anything else out there. Let's pull up. I believe this is going to be the cover, and you can correct me if I'm wrong there.
Yeah, this is going to be the cover. It's going to be the cover for the inside of the magazine. We're actually going to do a different cover for the book itself. So Joe's cool enough he's going to be drawing 2 of those for us.
Because this is just going to be going to be a preview of an upcoming campaign. Yeah,
absolutely. Bulletmaker. How many pages is going in here? 8 pages of Bulletmaker will be going into CG Jumpstart, including this cover right here, which we're using just the interior cover for the magazine. Like I said, later on, Bulletmaker will be made into a book. I don't know how many pages it's going to be. At this point, Joe's already done 2 extra pages for me. So, and I think we're going to have to include this too in the book. So it's going to be anywhere from 48 to 60 pages. It's going to be my next project coming out in between CG Jumpstart and the next round of CG Jumpstart. So spring sometime.
So you're definitely going to be keeping backers busy. You got Vestige, and then which is, like you said, still in demand. Go get yourself a copy right now. Right on the heels of that, you're doing Jumpstart. Right on the heels of that, you're going to have this pure, beautiful piece, Bulletmakers.
Yes, absolutely. That is the plan anyway. And then, we got the magazine. I don't know when we're going to do the second magazine yet, but, I'm sure that'll be spring, summer edition, something like that. And then shortly after that, I'm doing Vestige 2. We can't wait too long, right? And I know Donald's got some work coming up. He's got a big project going on. But eventually we're going to have to get people onto Vestige 2 as well. So that's my basic timeline now for what I'm doing project-wise. I do have some other things in the work. I'm working on something with Sim eventually, either late next year, early 2021 maybe. And I've got Ruins of Adirion, which I don't know if have you talked to Doodle yet?
Yeah, we had Steve and Doodle on last week, and
I think that's the one I missed. Then I didn't see that one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that book because that's right up my alley.
Yeah, the fantasy, the whole, and that's the thing that's going to take the longest for me to develop. I'll be honest with you, it's going to be the biggest project for me because I'm going to turn it into. I would love to do like a D&D kind of expansion pack version of the whole thing, right? And make it not just a comic book, honestly, with Ruins of Adirion. That's my plan for that. That's a long time away, right? Mm-hmm. But like I said, Bulletmaker, we got Jumpstart, we got Bulletmaker, and then, Vestige 2 is going to be sometime next year. So that's my tentative schedule for now.
Very cool. So tell us, without giving too much away, of course.
Oh, Lord.
What is Bulletmakers?
Well, okay. I'm going to end up giving too much away anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter. My basic tagline for Bulletmaker is it's post-nuclear war, right? But it's pre-apocalypse. Now, it's in the setting of it's a modern age, but it's been basically civilization's been wiped out by a nuclear war. Basically, all semblance of modern civilization is now gone. No electricity. It's brought back what the people who survived are basically living in the dark ages, right? Now this is the year 2107. Now, so this isn't too far in the future, but it's far enough to imagine this possible, right? But see, being said, post-nuclear war, but it's also pre-apocalypse. So this book has a lot of religious overtones, a lot of spiritualisms in it. People who, Christians are going to love this thing, honestly. If you're into like gunfights and you're a Christian and, you're into like these spaghetti westerns, stuff like that. You know, there's a lot of elements of those things in it. You know, there's a little Mad Max. There's a little a little bit of a samurai type deal in the whole thing. You know, being a bullet maker is an honorable thing in this society, right? This is what this book is built around now. As society kind of devolved back into the Dark Ages, a handful of individuals have retained knowledge of a modern age, right? And the most important thing that they could ever remember was the ability of how to kind of die cast bullets, right, and make bullets, right? So it's kind of like a blacksmith. Imagine, if you will, a blacksmith being a leader of a community. Now, these communities are built around people who can actually make bullets. Now, bullets are the most important thing, but they can also make smaller things, ironwork, locks, gears, that type of thing, right? So these people kind of retain all the power in this new era. So these small communities kind of build up around these people who they call bullet makers. And this is kind of like this honorable thing. It's passed down from father to son or father to daughter, whatever it may be. And it's kind of like the code of a samurai, right? Your responsibility to your people, to lead your people. So you have to learn these techniques, you know? So it's actually something I wasn't too familiar with. When I first started writing it, I had to actually do a lot of research into how bullets are made, how they would be made if it wasn't being made by factories, you know.
It's a neat process, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really, and you know, I get really technical, like you know, higher velocity bullets are made with copper casings instead of whatever other material it is, because it allows the bullet to fly at an accelerated rate, you know? Yep. Now, I don't know exactly the science around it, but I did my damn research, you know? So there's a lot of that stuff that I had to do in order to kind of make this realistic, right? I didn't want to give you some bullshit version and me half-ass it. So I did a lot of research into how bullets are actually made, man. So I think people who are gun nuts and are into that type of thing, blacksmithing, stuff like that, man, they're really going to like this book. So
yeah, it's a lot of people, I think the bullet making aspect and going into it, that kind of detail with your research and everything, is a really cool spin on it, and way to look at it. Because, you know, the actual, like, the making of a gun, or as they were called back in the way days, were a hand cannon or whatever like that, was so closely guarded that you could, if you were trying to smuggle, because they invented it with gunpowder in China, and if they caught you trying to smuggle or teach other people, other cultures from other countries how to do that, they would kill you on the spot. That was the price you paid.
Well, it's great that you bring that up, because it's kind of part of this whole world, right? It's the people who understand advanced techniques have the advantage, right? Because everyone's kind of back in the Dark Age, but there's a handful of people now who have survived and passed this unique knowledge down. Now, one bullet maker might make rudimentary bullets, right? It's nothing special. Another one might have developed advanced techniques, you know. They understand how to when you groove the inside of a rifle in order to make it shoot straighter, right? That type of thing. Yes, that type of technique. You know, there's going to be different clans with different advantages, different bullet makers. It's kind of what this whole world's built around. This knowledge is kind of sacred, and it's also secret too. It's only passed down to people that's trustworthy, the person who's going to take over your community or your clan. So that's really the essence of where this book begins, and it's what our hero's about. His father is a bullet maker of this community. It's in Silver City in the Sierra Nevadas in Nevada, right? It's an actual place. So that's historically accurate. So we go. It's kind of like we're going through the journey with him at the beginning. You know, we kind of see what the lore of the world, we kind of see his father teaching him how to be a bullet maker, and the bond that is created between father and son, right? And the fact that he kind of tells his son he has a responsibility for the community as he grows up, and it's important for him to learn this thing and have respect for what they're doing, you know. It's very ritualistic, and it's very like almost religious in a way too. So there's that connection as well. Like I said, there are other plots in the story that have it's an overriding religious overtone. You know, the whole second half of the book, the major plot ties into Christianity. So I don't know, man. It's like I said, it's hard to describe without giving too much away. But our hero is kind of thrust into this world as a young kid. He learns from his father the ways of a bullet maker, and then he kind of they encounter some bandits, and that's kind of where the story begins. So
cool. Yeah, we were talking about the rifling of a barrel earlier. That even that technology was only specific up until they invented the mini ball in the 1860s. That was rifling of a barrel was only done with like what they called Kentucky long rifles and specialized. Like you had to pay a lot of money to have a gun made for you that had a rifled barrel in it until they invented the mini ball on a mass production scale. Because before then, everything was in the smooth bore muskets. And and the only way that you could have something that would shoot out of a rifled gun is if you were making your own ammo, or you making your own bullets and stuff. And that is a skill that a lot of people didn't know, because back then they used just straight up lead. And so while you were making your ammunition, you were slowly going insane because that lead is a poison and it makes you insane.
Wow.
Yeah, that's also. People who used to make hats, you've heard the term mad as a hatter. Well, that came from the mercury that they used to use in hat making to do the dyes and fabrics. And that also makes you crazy.
Wow. Holy shit. There you go. Yeah, that's cool that you brought that up, man. I could almost, you gave me an idea to use later on a bullet maker now. You know that?
Yeah, that's right. Sit down like, fucking mercury and hats. Mad as a
hat. Man. No, that's great, though. I never, there's a lot of that, type of shit that I never even thought about on that level, though, man. It's like the different materials they use in order to make these things. A lot of them were toxic, man. I think going into my world, it's kind of like the Dark Ages anyway. So in order for people to know that, it's kind of like part of this knowledge that would be passed down from bullet makers, to the next bullet maker. So that would be important knowledge that would give them advantage over other people, man. So, yeah.
Yeah, that making like actually making brass, like if you handle copper too much in its raw form, or if you get it wet over time, that'll make you crazy too. It's a poison.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, this is good, man. I can use some of this stuff in books later on. You know that? There's still so much, man. I gotta research. I've probably put, I don't know, 12 to 16 hours into it as far as just bullets and bullet making, how it would be done if it was not modernized, that type of thing. There's not a whole lot of information out there, man, to be honest with you. So it takes a lot of time just to find something that's worthy to read about, right? But then occasionally you'll find some gems out of nowhere which yield knowledge like what you just gave me, right? That is a lot of shit that I found was useless to me. But for the most part, when you do find something, man, it's like, man, these dudes really know their shit. This is a dude who actually sits in his garage and does it. Like one of those type of dudes. Like that's who I need to learn from, man, because that's the type of knowledge and the type of expertise that needs to go into the book, man. I want it to be as realistic as possible. So
I think Matthew Fowler's on to you. He says research equals smoking blunts and watching bullet making documentaries.
True. That is true. Yep. It's exactly what I do. A lot of time I prefer to read, but yeah. I have watched a couple videos, yeah.
Volt Cobalt says, Bullet Makers gives me sort of a Wild West steampunk and Mad Max vibe. Tribes of civilization centered around preserved knowledge and survival.
I would describe it like that. It's all of those things. You're absolutely right. It's all those things and more. Fuck, dude. I wish I could just tell you everything.
Is it Tina Turner Mad Max? Is it Tina Turner Thunderdome Mad Max, or is it the dude in the hockey mask Mad Max?
Oh no, it's Tina Turner Mad Max.
Okay.
Yeah, brother. The OG only. You know that? But no, I mean, he brings up a great point. I could describe this thing as, probably 12 different things that you guys would all recognize, right? And that's how much is kind of stuffed into it. It's fucking wild, dude. It's almost indescribable. The world that I'm developing is like those things and nothing like those things. How about that?
All right, we'll leave it at that. So who's on this cover here? Can you at least give us an idea without giving?
Now what we're looking at here is the preview, the cover for the preview, right? And now this preview of the action in Bulletmaker now is in the middle of the book. So what you'll be reading in Jumpstart is shit. I don't remember what exact page it is. This is like somewhere in the middle of the book, right? So what we're doing here is introducing kind of our second half of our protagonist. Now, are they antagonists? I don't know, because this book is going to really kind of make you choose your own, kind of choose your own hero, right? You've heard of the choose your own adventure books, right? Well, this is kind of like, it's up to you to kind of determine who you like the most and who you want to kind of triumph at the end of the whole story arc, right? So I think a lot of people are going to have their own, and there's so many different characters in this thing that everyone's going to have their own favorite, like kind of how everyone has their own favorite X-Men. That's kind of one of those things, man. At the end of the day, it's a lot of blurred lines and gray area, and you don't really know who the hero is and who it isn't. And you might think someone's the hero, and you still might want them to die. You know what I mean? It's one of those type deals. So just all depends on the person reading it, actually.
So this is going to be a large cast of characters in this book.
Oh, man, I'm doing so much shit in this first book. Yeah. So I'm introducing our main hero, right, who is the son of a bullet maker. His name's Ryo. And his father, his name's Hawthorne. And his father is the leader of the Silver City community, right, or what's left of it. It's pretty much just dilapidated buildings and a really nice forge. So, but he's the leader of this community, and that's kind of where the story starts off. They encounter some bandits and another clan in this world, and that's where Joe gets to have some fun, right? And then it kind of proceeds to this part of the book right here, where we're seeing our second kind of group of heroes or protagonists enter the frame, right? And I don't want to say too much about these characters. I don't even want to tell you their names. I'll just tell you that these people are badass, and then when you meet them in the book, you're going to see why they are such badass people, right? So I would say maybe go to the second page, right? And we can see kind of some of the action, them jumping into action a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, we can switch up screens. So, Joe, how much fun did you have doing this? Did GAT have you on a tight leash, or were you able to kind of spread your wings and fly?
Well, we kind of, when we're developing this stuff and putting all the ideas together and planning out how things look, they, Steve and GAT both give me general ideas, and then they let me run with those ideas, and then we kind of all work together to refine it down to what they're seeing mentally. Because my first job is to try to achieve what GAT sees in his head. So that's kind of how I approach it, and it is a lot of fun either way. Like I enjoy all that kind of stuff. I enjoy collaborations. I'm not an artist that's dead set on only working for myself forever, and I get why a lot of guys are. But I mean, I've been working with people for 18 years now, so it's actually nice to work with people that have good ideas and want to do good stuff. And it's not just here's a script, draw it and get it back to me. There's a lot of fine details and discussions that go into everything you see, every single panel. So
I love the dude on the right, all the way on the right. Both pages that I've seen, he's been my favorite character look wise so far. He's got the feather in his hat with the handlebar mustache. I mean, he's got that dapper and dandiness to him, but
There
at the
you
same
go.
time,
You
he
already
will
know.
burn you down in a heartbeat. I love
There
it.
you go, Nick. See, you
Yeah.
already know him. You already know my character by looking at him one time. That's what I wanted to achieve, brother. He is absolutely, I mean, this dude, you're going to meet him. He's a hell of a character, brother. He's a womanizer. He likes to have fun. He's a pimp. That's all I can say. He's a pimp, and you're right. He's not one to be fucked with either.
Yep.
So,
yeah, he's definitely, he reminds me of, the way, like in this middle panel right here with his eyes, the way they're coming across like that, it reminds me of a scene in Tombstone where you first meet Johnny, what's his name, Johnny Ringo for the first time, and he's right after he shoots the priest in the head, and he starts talking about Revelation and stuff. I think that is that's the look that reminds me of.
nice. Yeah, I mean that's what we're going for here, right? I mean, like I said, you took one look at the guy and you kind of knew what category he fell in. You don't even have to hear him talk to know what he's going to say. I think that's what I was going for, and that's Joe right there. We've spent hours and hours, kind of making these characters very unique, and they all have their own personalities. I mean, obviously, but they're very unique characters, man, and Joe brings it out in his art,
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's almost verbatim. The first description GAT gave me is the one that you just said.
Yep.
So that's that we're achieving what we want, and that's good to hear it come from somebody that doesn't know the difference necessarily for that specific character, and you were able to catch on to those subtle aesthetics and things like that.
I've watched that movie probably easily 100 times. So it's like I did a full report on Outlaws and Lawmen of the Old West, like a 12-page paper back in college for like a mini thesis and stuff. So I've done my research when it comes to these guys, and I can spot one of these dudes from a mile away, and we are driving Steve Dye nuts.
Yeah.
That's a big. You mentioned Lawman, and that's also going to be a part of the book. Not a huge part, but in this world, anyone who is quote unquote a lawman or a sheriff or a marshal, they're not particularly nice fellows.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a bit of this bullet maker lore for you right there. Now, we're not going to meet one in the first book, right? But typically, these people who are quote unquote lawmen are not, in fact, lawmen.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's a lot of that going on
right there.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on in real life back in the 1870s and 80s in the Wild West. They walked a very, very fine line between good and bad. I think the best portrayal I've ever seen of it was the first episode of Deadwood, where right at the beginning, where Timothy Oliphant's character hangs that dude to stop him from getting lynched. So he still kills him, but at least they don't get to lynch him.
Exactly. Yeah. So that also, I mean, there's a lot of those kind of tropes that you'll find in old Western John Wayne movies. The old Western, Gunsmoke, all that shit. A lot of that's going to be kind of like an occurring theme in Bullet Maker. Where that's part of the kind of feel I'm going for, right? But it's not all of it. With these characters, this is exactly what I was going for, though. Wild West gunslingers. Although we will come to see that they don't necessarily have old weapons. They have modern weapons. So,
and that's a cool spin on it. You've got these kind of modern, maybe even a little futuristic weapons, but a very Wild West setting.
Well, you bring that up, and you see the woman in the panel here, and these characters are going to be reoccurring in all the books. So, I mean, it's not that they're not, just because they're not the main character doesn't mean they're not in every book. These characters that I'm introducing right here in the preview are going to be in every book, right? They're a major part of the entire Bullet Maker story. Point being, you see there the woman with the modern sniper rifle. That's going to be the most modern weapon I think we're going to see, at least in the first book. This chick's a badass with it.
I love how she's wearing a masquerade ball mask too. It's like the old lady in the mask thing, where it's like the femme fatale type deal. I love that. I think
it's
that's
like I tell you what it is. It's you remember the whole Indian face paint. Now go back and look at that. That's like the Indian face paint over our eyes is what it's going to be. So when you see it colored, I think we're going to have a little splash of red in there, and like it's going to look really cool, man. So and actually, you know, this is going to be colored in the magazine, so everyone will get to see this in color in the magazine.
excellent.
Yeah, I forgot all about that.
Yeah, I don't know how good the resolution is on people's screens, but from what I'm looking at, you can. I mean, this is pure pencils and inks. I mean, you can see the darker spots like here and here around his eyes, whereas like some of it's a little bit lighter in places. Like this is true blue ink right here, and it looks fantastic, Joe.
Joe's incredible. I've been telling people now for a couple months, compare him to Rob Willis, man. I mean, and that they're not necessarily that their styles are exactly the same, but the fact that Joe puts so much detailed work into the stuff he does. I mean, he's going to show you death, death, death later. And I mean, not that, you know, it's not that he hadn't put any detail in Bulletmaker, but Jesus, wait till you see the shit from later, you know? You'll see, you're going to find out, everyone's going to find out real quick how good Joe Ball is, these next 2 books he's on. So.
Yeah, we're going to make Joe a very busy man in Comicsgate.
I mean, look at this. I mean, they're looking down on the town now that's been kind of ransacked by bandits, right? And she's going to put that sniper rifle to work here at the bottom panel.
I know, and take a second to look at that city that Joe drew. All the fucking buildings and shit that are all in there. I mean, that is a sprawling landscape of a city.
Some of it's still on fire.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at that correctly.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, look at this. I mean, and that's the first thing that stuck out to me when I saw Joe's work. Not that his normal line work isn't brilliant, but just looking at some of the backgrounds he's done. Oh man, they're just the detail involved. I was like, yeah, this is a dude that can pretty much do anything, right? I knew it instantly. And then I actually was going to talk to Joe about doing a different IP of mine, and we never got that far because we started talking about Bulletmaker and. We just decided, man, right then and there that Joe was the guy. I was like, can you draw horses, Joe? And I mean, you look at this horse, you know, scroll up a little bit there and you can see the horse. It's beautiful, you know?
Yeah, you guys are going to see some beefcake horses in this comic book. Like once I started drawing horses, because, you know, one of the funnest things for a lot of comic artists to draw is just muscly dudes. It's something you've been doing ever since you're a little kid. If you wanted to draw comics from, you know, drawing superheroes, and I was like, you know what? There's not necessarily like just ripped superhero-esque dudes everywhere in this, but there are definitely horses. So I'm gonna make these, you know, some ripped ass horses. Other than the girl's horse you're seeing her on, it's gonna be a little more feminine just to fit her.
And I would say the horses themselves also are kind of unique. We'll find out later on in the book. Actually, I don't think you find out in this book. That's where I'm getting too much away.
Don't get too
Spoilers, Steve.
Spoilers. Don't get ahead of yourself now.
But yeah. Anyway, the horses, man. I mean, everything plays such an important role in this. I mean, there's lore that goes with the guns themselves that have names attached to them. I think a lot of the important guns. There's a hierarchy with the guns and Bulletmaker, obviously. You know, it's kind of like my homage to Vestige, right? In Vestige, you have kind of this hierarchy of relics, you know, from the most powerful to the least, right? Maybe these have minimal, small powers to do things. Or maybe they're not something that is a particularly strong power to hurt someone with, right? So it's probably a little lower on the hierarchy of powerful relics. Well, in Bulletmaker, we kind of have the same thing going on here, you know. The people who are lucky enough to have a gun, first of all, you know, it's fewer and far between. You know, in order to have a gun, you have to be kind of a special character, right? And then when it comes to the guns themselves, like I said, there's a little lore behind each weapon. So that will be revealed also. I'm not going to go too far. I know Steve's about to type spoiler again. I'm not going to do it, Steve. But yeah, that will be revealed later on in future issues. gun lore itself is going to be pretty important in this book.
Yeah, so just briefly, like you said, this is going to be an 8-page preview of an upcoming campaign, but you've got an overarching story. It's not just going to be a one-shot book.
Oh no, this is another series. I have 8 of these planned. It's basically this is how it's going to go. God willing, and Comicsgate willing, right? I'm going to do 8 of these. I'm going to do 8 of Vestige. Now these are my main projects that I'm focusing on. I'm also going to be doing other things throughout the years. Hopefully, if all things go well, fingers crossed, right? But these are my 2 main kind of IPs that I'm focusing on. So this is an 8-volume story arc, just like Vestige.
Nice. Both of these, I think, will end up, hopefully at the very end, when all is said and done, you can do a crowdfunding like hardcover of the complete volume, and that'll be badass.
Dude, yeah, I mean, that's way in the future, but yeah, one day, that is the plan. I would love to be able to do something like that.
That's awesome. So awesome. I can't this I tell you what, sitting in the pre-show, I was like, man, I don't know how we're going to tackle this project, because we don't want to give too much away, but this is such an awesome book. Like, you guys
I'm saying, I can't lie to everyone. I gave Adam and Nick some spoilers in the pre-show, so they kind of know a little bit more than what I'm going to be willing to give away to anyone else out there, right? And it is like he just said, it's such a hard book to kind of tackle, because there's so many different aspects and there's so many different plot levels to it. If you talk about a little, you're going to reveal a lot, Yeah,
so, we don't want to do that. We don't want to reveal a lot. We want you fans to be absolutely floored when you get these books in your hands.
Exactly. Yep. Well, it's like Vestige. Bulletmaker is very similar to Vestige in the fact that the plot, there's so many plots that are kind of intertwined, and there are some things that I really simply can't say, I can't talk about, that are major plot points. And Bulletmaker is just like Vestige. Now, once you get Vestige for the first time and it's kind of slowly revealed what's going on, I'll be able to talk about anything and everything then, except for exactly what's going to happen in the next book, But it almost takes you to read the first one or the first couple, maybe even, before we can get to that point to where I can come on here and talk freely. Right now, I'm doing my best not to totally ruin everything. So, yeah. It's hard not to just tell everyone exactly what's going on. That's kind of like the trickiest thing in crowdfunding, especially with my stuff. I know some other people might not have that issue. The typical superhero books, you can talk just straight up, give you the basics about what's going on. My books are not like that. And I think once people read Vestige, they'll understand why.
No, I wouldn't say that you've given away anything more than what you were planning on saying, what we talked about earlier before the show, because it's like I wrote in the chat, you're selling the sizzle right now and you have to, but the bacon is still uncooked and it is safe. So you haven't done anything. You haven't really given anything away. I mean, all the stuff that I've said, brother. I know, I understand. Oh, I understand. You get excited and amped about it. I mean, the stuff that I said about the one guy was just based on observation. I mean, how many times you see a dude walking around in a Western with a feather in his cap if he wasn't some kind of dandy or something like that? And that's just based on past experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, Matthew Fowler says creating hype without spoilers is tough, and that's very true. Sometimes you do got to give a little bit away to make something on the back end, but we don't ever want to give away something completely.
Yep. No, we just want to get people as excited as possible. I think we've done good so far. I think we've done very good. Everybody in the chat seems to really, really be excited for this to come out. And all you got to wait for for Jumpstart. You get 8 pages in Jumpstart, and then just shortly after that, the campaign's going to launch. And did we talk about that on air, on how you plan on, you want most of this is going to be done, so it's going to be a very short turnaround?
I can't remember. I'm high, but I'll say it again. Yeah, essentially everything I do from now on is going to be done. Bulletmaker will be ready to go. Essentially, when we launch. There's not going to be no anywhere from 3 to 6 month wait on a book anymore. It's going to be like a 60, 90-day turnaround, at the most from the launch date. So, I think that's the way the future of Comicsgate. Everyone has to keep things a little tighter. Like I said, I think maybe when we were talking earlier, I can't remember because we were on air or not, but the bigger guys can get away with it, but some of the middling guys and smaller guys just can't do it. We got to get our kind of our times down. We can't just have customers sitting around for 6 months.
Yeah, and it's gonna help. It's gonna help draw more backers that they're like, man, I gotta wait a year for this. Nope. Once it goes live, you got like 90 days, and that bitch should be in your hands.
Well, and I brought up the fact that I want to do, 8 books of Vestige, 8 books of Bulletmaker. If I really had a choice, I would do 2 of each every year. Now, I don't know if that's actually possible, first of all, financially wise, right? And then doing Jumpstart, it's a pretty big obligation on myself as well. So it takes a large part of my time kind of organizing the magazine. That being said, one day, maybe I can do 2 of these a year, and we don't have to wait 8 years for a conclusion to, this whole saga, both sagas that I'm writing. But yeah, for now, I feel like we get it down to at least 1 a year for each. And then when people buy the book, they don't have to wait on it. Then I think that's the best route to go,
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. So let's switch gears and let Mr. Ball have a little chance to shine here with his project coming up. That's going to be in Jumpstart. Death, Death, Death. Tell us a little bit about Death, 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 Joe.
Well, once again, without giving too much away as well, it's in a nutshell, it's a story about two groups of people. One's a small family, a husband, a wife, and a child, and on the other side of it, you've got a group of essentially abominations. They look mostly human, but they're not at a genetic level, and they will be thrust into the same environment in terms of the same planet, and you're going to see 2 stories that will ultimately meld together as one eventually. So you'll be seeing survival from the standpoint of these kind of human and sci-fi looking characters here that will be in one group, and they will have a more techie element to them. There'll be the tech side of it, and then like the big monster you see up there right under the title. That race will be a little more primitive, a little more organic, and you'll be seeing the struggle from both sides, just in terms of survival and progression. And eventually, their paths will be forced to mix because there's only so much space in one place, and that's when it'll just turn into a war book in a lot of ways. And that's the nutshell of it. It's a lot of seeing characters struggle that will ultimately be forced to deal with each other, and in the same place, and have to kind of coexist, but not really. That's it's gonna be a very violent book, mostly due to nature's a violent place. So you're gonna see characters trying to just fight elements, animals, creatures, the environment they're in, and then you're gonna see them fighting technological progression as well down the line. Wow. And everything kind of meets in the middle in a real life way that way too. Even if you want to live completely off the land, you end up having to use a chainsaw to cut down some trees or something like that. So it'll be that kind of a book. It'll be a very high action, high octane, testosterone fueled story with a lot of characters having to make tough decisions. So
where did the inspiration for this book come from? Because
About,
this is all you. You are writing, drawing. This is your baby.
yeah, pretty much. And this will go in Jumpstart. I'm trying to keep it exclusive to Jumpstart, and maybe once enough of it's piled up, we'll combine later and put out bigger books. But for the time being, in the immediate, it's a Jumpstart exclusively only thing. But well, for an inspiration standpoint, it's tough because I love so many pop culture things, but a lot of stuff I grew up on was in the '80s. You know, I'm in my late 30s, so I'm getting a lot of inspiration from all things '80s. So, you know, you may not see it in the immediate, but there will be a lot of things that will give you little touches or reminders of like Transformers, um, a Microman toy line from Japan, which was
Wow.
Micronauts here in the States, but you know
Yes.
they did it better in Japan.
Yeah.
You'll get the feels of a lot of things from manga, anime, um, and a lot of American just '80s products. It'll be a big mishmash of all that kind of stuff, and a lot of biblical. It'll all be undertoned, so you won't feel like that's like, you know, you're getting a rehash of something you've already seen. It's inspired. You know, it's not affected. So,
Well, I mean, you are a Christian, so I mean, it makes sense that you would draw from your own beliefs in your creativity. I mean, that's just natural.
yeah, yeah. It's and this isn't any major giveaway, but really, a good portion of the beginning jumps in during the flood, and that's about the most of the Earth biblical portion you'll get. Everything else will happen completely someplace else, and will be it'll still have some religious overtones, but it's going to be in a subtle, weird way. Like I'm going to intentionally try to make people a little uncomfortable with this, whether it's weird proportions of a creature that make you uncomfortable, whether it's the fact that a character never blinks, or you know, weird biblical symbology that's just there. You know, I'm trying to make people a little squeamish yet excited in a variety of ways.
Well,
Awesome.
I'm already excited just by you saying that. Like I've always been drawn towards that type of art that does make you feel a little uneasy and a little uncomfortable, but you still want more of it for whatever, you know, sadistic reason it might be.
Well, I think art's supposed to do that in the first place. Art's supposed to push your boundaries and make you uncomfortable. It's supposed to make you look at stuff from a different perspective or some way that you wouldn't necessarily think to look. I mean, even like somebody like Monet who did the dot painting system with his just like parkscapes and stuff like that. If you look through at the faces, even though there are no faces, you can still see faces. And sometimes you'll see a crying child for no reason, or you'll see a happy somebody else over here, and you've got to look for them and stuff like that. But you wouldn't think to. It's kind of a mind trick though, because you're looking at just what looks like a bunch of dots in a pattern, but you start to see the faces and everything in your mind, and it'll project onto the paintings and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's actually a good example. The Monet painting in the park. And I mean they had that scene in Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
Day Off.
where Cameron's staring at it, and he draws into that child, and it looks like she's screaming. But
like
it's
this,
also supposed to be, you know, it's supposed to be, you know, a look inside of himself, because in a sense, you know, he is screaming on the inside.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I like I like this either I want to say it's an angel, but it might be a hawk person. I'm not sure. But in the background, the feathering and the wings out like that is very, very nice. But I like how also right beside him, you've got what could be a cohort of his that's got like a techno organic almost, or a techno type of robotic suit. And I've seen that some of that before on on another toy line from Japan called Chokin Warriors, which were the giant samurai toys that came out back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy below him's got that you know, you can see that he's been experimented on and had some stuff replaced on him. Yeah, all this looks really, really good. just the symmetry, like these two main guys up who were on the thing, kind of remind me because their implants are on two different sides of each other. It's kind of like a little nod to the Crimson Guard twins, Tomax and Zaymond. They had their shields on on different opposite sides, so you could tell them apart in the toy line for G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you'll notice that like colors, all that stuff will play into the personality types, the look of different, and it's essentially what everyone but that monster that's at the top that you're looking at are they're abominations from Atlantis. They're the products of demonic experimentation, on humans pre-flood and animals and all kinds of things. But the bulk of what you'll see in the immediate are going to look a little more human. But some of those characters there are just trade workers. In Atlantis, some of them are military leaders. So it's that's why there's a different look too. That's why there's heavily armored, because some of them were they were very militaristic. They're generals, they're captains, that kind of stuff of different military branches, and it's a mishmash of characters that maybe all wouldn't get along because of class differences or whatever. But in the end, they're all abominations. None of them are pure. They're all throwaways and trash essentially, even though they still strive to survive. And even the angel looking guy, he's not an actual angel, but the book will feature angels. So they may not look like what you think they would, but there's all kinds of interesting biblical references to angels with animals' heads, an eagle's head, a lion's head, things of that nature. So angels take all kinds of different shapes and forms, and it gives me a lot of wiggle room for those kind of characters because I can do all kinds of crazy, wild stuff, and it's really not that far-fetched from a Christian perspective.
Wow, very, very cool. So you said this is going to be a serial in the book. It'll be ongoing in the magazine.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, you'll get about 12-page chunks if you count the cover. So 11 interiors, and there'll be like a cover page for each little section.
Nice. This is going to be a great addition to the magazine.
Dude, it's so packed.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. This book is nuts. I asked Steve last week. I was like, "So did we nail down a page count?" He's like, 120 ish.
Yeah. No, it's 120, Steve. Damn it. It's 120.
120 pages, packed, jam fucking packed.
Not ish.
Big book.
Yeah, I think it's going to have a good rereadability too, because even though you're getting stories in smaller chunks and preview sections, I feel like it's something that people are going to want to go back and refresh themselves on before the next season hits for the next issue. So it'll be good for I don't feel like it'll be a one read and then you're done.
Yeah,
I don't think so either.
Not at all. Yeah.
I plan on getting multiple copies just so I can wear out at least one book and have one book pristine.
There you go. Yeah, brother. Yeah, maybe it's a good idea to have a double tier then, in case people want 2 books.
You should always have a 2-book tier.
Yeah, I've hailed, brother.
Always.
Yeah, which like I said, the last time I was on, I think, or maybe the first time. I don't remember how many times I've been on with you guys now. A bunch, right? But we're planning on basically mimicking the tiers that we had invested. You'll be able to get original art out of CG Jumpstart. You'll be able to get head sketches from these guys. I think we're going to do a Huerta poster, blow up poster. Yeah, and then we might even give away CG only stickers too. So I think there'll be a tier essentially mimicking everything we did in Vestige. So, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
The one thing that I brought up the other day, and I don't know if you were in the chat or not, but and I think I want to say SoCal brought this up. about doing some kind of bulk tier, 5, maybe 10 copies.
That's interesting. Maybe we'll consider that. Yeah.
Depends on
I
price.
just
That's
don't know. The only thing we'd have to figure out with that is shipping cost on something like that, right?
Mhm.
So I'll know better, right, after we've actually gone through and shipped vestige and all that. So at that point, I'll know pretty much exactly what that would cost us if we can pull it off. Because then it's like, then we need to ship in something else. I don't think you can fit 5 of those in a Gemini mailer. You know that?
Do they have magazine-sized Gemini mailers?
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? So we might have to go. What are they doing? Like the hard paper ones, or something like that, even, right?
Yeah.
So that's something we haven't even actually sat down and went through yet. So, I mean,
Well, it depends on what type of paper stock that you're printing this on, because 120 pages on like a solid card stock or something like that will weigh more and therefore cost more in shipping than 120 pages will on magazine paper. So, like doing a bulk tier on a book that's 24 to 48 pages is usually a no-brainer. You want to see if you can get those into at least people get to buy them in bulk so they can take them and or get a LCS to try to buy it or something like that. But when it comes to something like this, a bulk tier would be, I would think, depending on how you do the paper and how much the cover stock weighs, that might get a little pricey.
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing, right? And then, like I said, I don't know, how many could we stuff in one of those bubble mailers? I don't know, probably 3 or 4, right? But we could sell 10 or 20. Then we're shipping a box. And
I tell you what, you do a secret tier of 10 for me and SoCal, and I'll come pick them up.
You're just gonna drive on over. Yeah,
I'll just drive on over, man.
Yeah, brother, I'll do that. You know what I mean? We can do that. I wouldn't mind. But it's like, we actually never even thought about that. We didn't consider it because we knew there were certain ramifications for shipping something too big of a weight, right? It's like we would have to charge extra shipping for something like that just to do it. So, that's the one problem we have, right? We haven't actually gone through this yet. So like I said, go through it with vestige, kind of get the feel of what's going on, what it's going to cost us. And then we can kind of make a better determination with how to proceed with the magazine, how we're going to ship that. I don't think at this time we will offer a tier where it's a bunch of books. I think we will do one definitely if you can get 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I'll think about it. I just don't know that it's actually possible at this point.
Well, and it's early still. It's still... we haven't even, not even like thinking.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a couple months. Yeah, I mean, we got a few months, brother. So I got to fulfill this vestige first, and then that's when we can actually start thinking about kind of getting the launch together for this thing, right? Which we don't want to delay it too long. But I mean, if you ask me, it's been too long on vestige. I want to kind of get it wrapped up and in people's hands as soon as possible, right? And so, like I said, if we can get this thing going in January, end of January, we can launch Jumpstart. That would be great. But that would be, I want to basically get vestige fulfillment taken care of by then. So,
yeah. Let's see. We did have a question. Dive Ninja brought this up. He asked, will Jumpstart be on Indiegogo, or will there be a mailing list to join or something?
Yeah, it's going to be a crowdfund on Indiegogo, brother. It's going to go just like vestige did. Yeah.
Are you just going to use the mailing list for vestige, or do you plan on starting a mailing list?
Yeah, I mean, I think we will. I don't know why not. We can always give. I think our last Indiegogo kind of update when we do go to ship vestige will be kind of reminding people that our next project is CG Jumpstart, to come check that out, right? So, that's our plan for now. And I think we'll, in turn, it's something that we can all kind of use in the future. Like, I feel like anyone that gets on the mailing list, right? We get anyone that has projects they want to share as far as CG Jumpstart goes. If they want to attach links and stuff like that, we could ship out kind of like a big link, a big update through CG Jumpstart for everyone's campaigns that are involved, like in the current magazine. Like say we do it this time and someone else has Indiegogos that are coming out, we can kind of give hints. These projects are going to be these artists and these projects are included in CG Jumpstart. Blah blah blah. Come check out their projects upcoming at this time, right? We can still do that during the campaign, kind of give updates on what people are going to be coming, what's going to be coming up next on Indiegogo, right? So that's kind of like a service we can offer to the people that are involved with the book as well. I never really thought about that. I know it's kind of like an on-the-air thing that we haven't discussed, but the mailing list is going to be important. It's something we should all utilize in the future, to help everyone out, I think.
Mailing lists are your friend.
Yeah. Yeah, because, you got people out there that they're not on Twitter. They're not on Twitter all the time. They might not be on Twitter, period. They're not keeping up to date with what goes on YouTube.
More than half the people that bought Vestige don't have Twitter, or, maybe even the other half aren't even on YouTube, right?
Exactly.
They just wandered upon the campaign, thought it looked cool, and bought it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they don't know anything about Comicsgate. It's entirely possible. But yeah, those people are important too, So that mailing list, I'm glad you brought that up. That's something we got to kind of focus on, man. You're right.
Matt Fowler has an interesting idea. I've talked about this a little bit with some other people before. Send a flyer for CG Jumpstart with every copy of Vestige.
Yeah, I could do that. It wouldn't cost much money. You know that. But it's like, if I can just use the actual mailing list, I don't know. I can do it through there, right?
I think that'd probably be just as good. I every time I get an update, an Indiegogo update from any campaign, I always check it and see what's going on and what they have to say. Is it minor? Is it major? You never know, but it is nice to keep your backers up to date as to what's going on. Even if it's the most minute little thing, I'll still always read it and be like, okay, cool, nice, awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think that's, with Jumpstart, it's not going to be a whole lot of updates because, like I said, the thing's going to be ready to go when we launch. So it's like, hey, you're getting your book. Here's your update. I don't know if we need to update, but it's something that we could do. Like I said, if we have ongoing people are in the Jumpstart magazine, they have ongoing campaigns or something currently going, we can kind of give shout outs to them and use the mailing list to kind of help them out. It can only help. It's not going to hurt anyone. So.
Yeah. Mogwai Centurion says Tucci updates daily. That's a little much, I think.
Yeah.
I'd say, once a week is probably pretty substantial, depending on how long you've got in between here and there. Once a month seems like it might be a little too long, but and Sim's yelling about updates. He says, still update during the freaking campaign. GAT, you need to watch more Blunt talk, brother. That's all Edwin the Ace talks about.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm smoking more blunts. I'm busy smoking more blunts. No offense, brother. I love you and fucking Ace, but yeah. I watch Blunt
talk. That character reminds me. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm thinking out loud. The character, the Abomination, the main little monster Abomination guy, I've been going around in my head what he looks like. He reminds me of Merman from He-Man. He's because Merman's got a coral face, and
yeah,
it's been driving me crazy. It's like because I kept thinking Pirates of the Caribbean after Davy Jones and all the guys on that ship show up.
Yeah, they got the coral and shit.
Yeah, there's one guy that has the coral for the face, and I was like, who else does that? And I was like, and finally I was like, oh, Merman. Okay.
If there was one phrase I could use to describe Joe's book, Death, or at least the serial, it would be, it's kind of like the eternal struggle for survival, right? It's a survival book.
Yeah. Nature will find a way.
And, it's survival on all fronts, too. It's not just, you'll meet the, what people, of course, and here's why I like Joe's concept so much. It's his reasoning behind the way he does stuff and the way he blends kind of mythology and religion, and he kind of makes it his own. Is kind of how I did Vestige. You know, I mixed history and a lot of mythology together. You know, so that's why I liked Joe's story when he presented it to me so much. And then he was describing all the, you know, the struggle of these people and, you know, what was going on and you know, how the story would progress and what happens in the end. You know, how it's just like a natural encroachment of these characters, you know, meeting head on eventually. You know, there's nothing you can do. It's like you said earlier. Is really like it's a struggle book, and you're looking at it from everyone's perspective of they're just trying to survive in this world, you know, and it's fucking great, man. I love this concept.
No, thank you, Dad. It's very much gonna be like that. There's I know a lot of books get pinned as like gray area stories, but this one will have a lot of defined good and evil. It's just, you know, characters aren't going to verbally say out loud, like, that's naughty, don't do it. It's, you can tell by their reactions and the way they, the way the choices they make and the things they do that will define those kind of things of what's good and evil. Plus, too, we've all been in positions in life where there is no like there's no winning answer to a situation. It's just two different degrees of losing. Like, yeah, so that's a lot of what's going to be in this book too. Is you know, you're put these characters are going to get put in situations where like both answers are wrong, but you just got to take the one that's less wrong.
That's cool, man. I dig this concept so much. And I mean, both of these concepts that we looked at tonight, Death, and Bullet Makers, obviously both drawn by the incredibly talented Joe Ball. Their concepts are so far out there and unlike anything that we're really getting in comics right now, but we should be. Like this, these are what like all comics should be like. But unfortunately, in this day and age, they're just not.
Yeah.
God loves the war campaign, brother. What can I say?
Yep, that's the truth.
True that. Hail.
Hell to that, brother.
There's got to be a reason that a handful of people that didn't know each other 2 years ago came together and said, hey, I've got this idea. And the other person said, me too. They're kind of the same, but not really at all. You know, like they're the same on paper in a nutshell way. But then when you actually see it for the whole and from the literal visual standpoint, they're totally different. But you can tell a lot of people are feeling certain things just in real life that are manifesting itself into these stories that you know, it's just interesting. You don't see that too often outside of cases like you know, like Image, for example, like, hey, here's a bunch of cool team books, and then you can literally like tell exactly who's who from the X-Men. It's like, yeah, it's new, but it's not really new. This, I feel like we've got a good group of creators on Jumpstart, and GAT's got just stories on top of stories to tell. So it's made for a lot of good variety. Like, I'm really excited for people to see the amount of variety and quality, because that's what we're not getting from mainstream. We might be getting variety, but there's no quality there. It's just a whole lot of trash.
Yep.
So it's like, well, do I want this trash or that trash? Well, we're giving you something that's brand spanking new. It's a nice shiny new car, not a used up 91 Honda that's got cigarette burns all over the seats.
Yeah.
You selling your car, Joe?
Yeah. Are you interested?
I might be. Yeah.
No, it's it's like Steve Dye says. You know, comics should be aspirational. We should always be aspiring to do better as far as our storytelling, as far as the storytelling goes, as far as the art, as far as everything goes. I think that you know, that's the one thing that kind of like Joe said, that's the one thing that kind of separates Comicscape from everybody else that you're getting in the mainstream, because all that stuff is trash. And now they're going through and they're trying to seriously retcon some of these characters. Like Poison Ivy is a hero now and not a villain. even though she's mass murder and all this other stuff, but she's become like this crazy environmentalist superhero and all this stuff. Who,
Yeah, she went from eco-terrorist to environmentalist.
Yeah, because they believe in culling populations and strict children policies and stuff like that. And so to them, poison ivy is absolutely perfect. And and we have the big two that are not. That is being encouraged through the political message that those books are now saying, and some of the other garbage and nonsense that's coming out of it. But you have these books, like I think that's why everybody is coming into Comicsgate suddenly and quickly, is because unless you are 100% brainless and brainwashed and mindless, you can kind of see the quality in the storytelling is over here, and it's something that you won't see anywhere else, and it's organic in nature over here, whereas everywhere else it seems to be very, very forced. And God does absolutely love the war campaign, because all of some of the in Comicsgate, I think some of the best projects are coming out of people who are at least associated with war campaign in one way, shape, or another. And
and Comicsgate in general, yeah.
And I think that that is something that people need to start recognizing and paying attention to, because we don't want. I will say this for myself. I could care less if Marvel and DC go out of business tomorrow. Actually, I'm rooting for it, because I want them gone. Because if they're going to pull out, if they're just going to keep destroying 30 years worth of history and character building and backstory and everything like that just to score woke points, I don't need them. You know what I'm saying? I've got all these great creators who are coming out now.
They don't care, right? The people that care are here. We're all fucking here.
Yeah.
We're the people who actually care about this shit. If they cared, this shit wouldn't happen in the first place. You know that? They would have never let it get this bad. Comicsgate would never be a thing if Marvel and DC actually gave a fuck, right? Because they have people that have told them better, right? They know the type of shit they're putting out. They can see the results, right? It's right in front of their fucking face. It's right in front of their eyes. But here's what we're doing here with Jumpstart. We not only are we going to show that Marvel and DC that we're competitors, we're going to show that we're better than them. We're literally going to show off. This magazine is us showing off. We're literally laughing in their face with this shit. We're going to put together this magazine that's going to be so fucking dope. They could only dream of doing something this good. Do you hear me? That's how good this motherfucker's going to be. So we're literally going to be laughing in their face and showing off and be like, look what Comicsgate is, you little bitches. You ain't shit. All that money and you can't do shit with it. You know that? That's what we tell them. And then we say, now look, people are responding, God, like I said, God willing and Comicsgate willing, this thing's a success. And we can all really celebrate and dance on their graves here in a couple years, right? When they start licensing out their fucking IPs to everyone. So,
that's coming. That
at
is
the end of the day, but here's the thing, though. Here's what I'll tell you about this. That all that shit's played out. I'm not saying get rid of Batman, get rid of Superman, but they've not made anything new for years that is worth a fucking damn. Nothing new. And now people are sitting here starving for actually decent comic books and decent stories, and they can't find them anywhere. They can't fucking find them anywhere. And so this is our responsibility as Comicsgate to do nothing to bring you but nothing the best and the brightest fucking people, right? The people who actually care about their dreams and their visions, that they want to come see reality. They want to be part of the comics industry. They've tried for years. Like in Joe Ball's case, he's tried for 20 damn years to do this shit. And he's been rejected at every turn. And you look at this fucking art on the goddamn screen right now, and you compare it to what Marvel and DC's doing, and you fucking laugh. And you know what I mean? It's time for us to just fucking laugh back at them, because they ain't shit. We're going to fucking put this magazine together, and it's going to be the best thing anyone's ever fucking seen ever in a long time. Let's put it that way, in a long fucking time. So they're fucked. Marvel and DC better take fucking notice right now. I'm telling you, they are fucked.
Well, they told us to take our money elsewhere, and well, we did. and we took our talents elsewhere. And and now they are forced to bend the knee to communist countries whenever they get mad at them for some perceived slight or whatever, or because Batman's cow is black. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, talk about stupidity. Batman's cow's been black since the 1930s. This is not nothing new, and so it's just one of those things, man. Those people, that's what I love about Comicsgate, and that's what I love about. I think everybody's going to really, really grab hold on to about CG Jumpstart is like you said, it is Comicsgate getting to show off, and this is going to be a great platform for people who haven't had the opportunities, or like Joe, who have been just told, well, your stuff isn't good enough, when obviously, I mean, I will put just this cover of Death. I will take this and put this up against anything the Big Two is bringing down right now, and I'll absolutely destroy them with how good this is compared to the crap that they've got coming out. Even that cover of the Batman thing that caused all the consternation with China and everything. Other than the fact that it had that kind of reaction, the art in and of itself is terrible. It has that freaking not cow arts to it, but that the last Batman cartoon that came out where you've got the short ears Batman, and it's
Brave and the Bold.
Yeah, it's got that rounded like the short ears Batman, and his face is almost flat. It has like which makes for, I guess, a good straight on no emotion type thing. But when Batman, that was the great thing about like Batman the animated series, like it still had a flatness to it, but it still had definition and different lines. But you could tell the difference. Like when Batman was angry, you knew Batman was angry because he'd squint his eyes a little bit more, and he'd get a furrowed like his frown would get a little bit more distinct or something like that. This stuff just looks like blobs on paper. Whereas this stuff that Joe Ball has right here, it looks phenomenal. Like the guy who's in the black with the spikes on his head and stuff like that, this guy looks like he could be a supervillain ready to take over the world, or he could be something like coming out of the Centurion's toy line from back in the 80s or something like that. I mean, it's just beautiful the way it looks.
Yep. Oh, this is the type of shit you're going to see. Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. Go ahead, brother.
I was just going to say, I appreciate all that, man. It's a weird sensation when you know you're confident at what you do because you've sank your entire life into it. I mean, I've been doing this literally since I was a little boy, and I could hold a pencil and own a comic book. But every turn you take, it's the answer is no, and most logical, reasonable people say, well, it's got to be me. It can't be everyone else this many times. And eventually I got to a point where I realized, it's not really me. I'm doing everything they say you're supposed to do. Conventions, I'm talking to editors in a manner that's proper and professional. What it came down to was the industry is filled with people that are either A, scared of cancel culture, so they will not tell their true opinions, or B, they don't really know what they're doing. They don't have standards. So they don't know how to judge if something's good or bad because they have no standard to begin with. They don't know what's good. They don't know what's bad.
I would also say that you kind of represent a different type of that represent a little bit of a different type of threat to them. You're a walking pink slip, because if you get hired, there's 3 artists that are, with the amount of detail and work that you can do and how fast I've seen you put stuff out, you can do as good a job as three other artists can on their best day, and you on your worst day. So you are a walking pink slip to some of these people. They were totally intimidated by you, and they didn't want that kind of competition. I mean, imagine if you had gotten in there and how much you would have blown some of these other people out of the water. They'd be unemployed right now. And they saw that and they were like, oh no, we can't do that. You know what I'm saying? And that's, that kind of mentality is what has stifled the creativity and killed the comic book industry, because we have Tom King trying to kill us with terrible stories and, have counseling sessions every issue for himself and stuff like that. I mean, we don't want that. We want interesting characters that evolve and yet keep a continuity to them. I mean, character continuity and story continuity is something that is so lost right now when it comes to the big two and IDW and all the rest of them. I mean, they can't keep stuff together to save their lives.
See, I think the big problem that has occurred over the past couple of decades is that a lot of these people in the industry got too used to playing with other people's toys, and they forgot how to actually be creative. And that's why we started seeing all this regurgitation, rehashing, Civil War II, Civil War III, Secret Wars 3, like that's where all this comes from, is because people got so used to playing with other people's toys that they forgot how to be creatives. And then they broke those toys to the point where other people don't even want to watch you play with these toys anymore. even though they've watched it for decades upon decades. It was always interesting to see these stories played out of these characters that were created, half a century ago. But the people in the industry lost their creativity, so the stories all went to shit. They broke all the toys, and then they kicked out all the fans and said all the fans were wrong, that what they were doing was fine. So the hardcore fans, like you guys said, we walked over here to Comicsgate and we said, fine, we're going to do our own thing. We're going to support these creators who know what the fuck they're doing, who are actually creative voices, who have something to say in an original way. Mm-hmm. That's where our money is going to go from now on. And the more money we put into it, the better projects come out of it. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, you've seen Comicsgate grow from a couple guys, putting forth their best foot forward, and now we've got dozens of creators putting their best foot forward, and we are destroying the mainstream right now. Yeah. And this magazine is going to blow the doors open.
I would say, Adam, I have more talent in 8 p.m. hangout sessions the last 3 to 4 months than Marvel and DC do all year at any one of their studios.
Oh yeah, you talk about like a great roundtable discussion, the meeting of the minds is those hangout sessions. I mean, shit, even when we do our late night ones at 11 o'clock at night, it's Joe and it's Sim and whoever else is up at the weird hours, up all night shit. Like the ideas and shit to get spit around and talked about are just, they're out of this world. Yep. Absolutely out of this world.
Well, we're creating new competition too. It's gonna force people to put up or shut up after a while, because I've shown plenty of normies, a modern Spider-Man comic book, and then a picture I drew, printed to scale to the comic book, and it's two different worlds of reactions. They have no clue what my stuff is, but they're way more excited about it than something that they're supposed to habitually be excited about. That it's just hard to take serious anymore, because the artwork and the stories have just gotten so terrible and so bad for just too many consecutive years now.
Yeah, they let it go on for way too long. I can understand like a lull where, maybe things just weren't popping, but this constant, they said it for so long. Oh, the talent pool's dried up. Oh, it is? Is it? Because I look around Comicsgate and I see a vast well of talent just oozing out and wanting to be seen. And like you, tried to work in the mainstream for years and was told, no, you're just not good enough. But then I look at a mainstream book and I'm like, okay, Joe's not good enough, but this fucking Sunday morning cartoon looking bullshit, that's good enough? Like, who is this for?
Yeah, they're trying to sell to an audience that doesn't buy or care.
Comics were always supposed to be like, I mean, that was high art, like intense lines, crazy storylines, out of this world shit. And it's not anymore. Like Nick said, they've taken it and they reversed it and they brought everything back down to earth, where you've got two characters sitting at a coffee table talking about their feelings, or you've got somebody sitting alone on his fucking couch eating ramen, thinking about his feelings. Like that's not what I came to comic books for. I came to comics for that crazy style, the shit that, like, when I was a kid, like, I couldn't even come up with in my wildest imaginations. That was the shit that drew me into comics. That, well, escapism. I know we've said it over and over and over, escapism. But that's what it was supposed to be about. Like, there was a reason why all the dudes were super muscular. All the women were babes. And, even if she was a brainiac, she still had, tits that went out past her chin. But it's all gone now.
Well, the strange thing is like you can even look at like sales figures on different covers for the same book, and artists like Jim Lee, artists like David Finch, Michael Turner when he was still with us, Silvestri, like those guys' numbers still skyrocket. You even if they did not draw the interiors of a book, and it just shows you that people that have a style that demonstrates how much they care about what they're doing, because you can see the work literally on the paper and in a manner where you go, that looks difficult. That looks like that was hard to achieve. Those guys set standards that don't get any appreciation now, and it's kind of sad because I've went to conventions for years and years on end and talked to all of these guys, and you won't meet too many people nicer than Jim Lee. He'll literally hold up a whole line just to give you an art lesson and help you out if he likes your stuff. David Finch gave me like 6 months of tutoring for free out of his own time. Awesome. There's the guys that care the most are in this modern day kind of the most quiet, yet they're still the best at what they do, even though they're a little more overloaded these days. Like Jim Lee, he's trying to run all kinds of things. He can't do 24 pages a month year round.
That's because they moved him up in the office. They gave him a fucking desk job.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what they're doing to a lot of people in a negative way, or they're wanting to lowball them. I mean, all those covers Mike Turner and Aspen did for DC in the the mid 2000s, they were just pumping them out. They did that stuff at such a discounted rate, it was pathetic. And it's like, Michael Turner should never be working at a discounted rate. No. Never, ever. I don't care how simplistic his art got compared to where it was. It was still better than most other people's. It's just frustrating because we know what sells. Quality sells. It's pretty simple. It doesn't have to be all the same. Tim Sale is high quality. He doesn't draw like me, but I love his work because it's original. It's his, and you can see the effort.
Style. I love that style.
And that's the best stuff. So it's mind-boggling to think that they're willing to let a whole industry die just to spite people with standards.
Well, it's like Todd McFarlane was in town this past weekend where I live, and his daughter lives here, and he was just decided to they came here for Thanksgiving, and he decided to go into a comic book shop and sat down for 4 hours and just talked to people and signed autographs out of nowhere. And you don't you'll never see that from any of the new guys who are mainstream nowadays. Without it being some kind of like, and he did that for free. He did that as a way to give back and to say thank you to the people of this area, because this actually he said that he has a lot of fans and guys who travel all over the place just to come see him at conventions and stuff. So he came here since he was here for Thanksgiving to do that, and I thought that was really, really awesome. And this is Todd McFarlane. I mean, the dude's I've got several of the covers that he's done.
Well, he's from a different breed, different time. It's those guys have an appreciation that a lot of people working in comics now, at least they don't seem to have it or don't demonstrate it in their work, that they have that same kind of appreciation and respect. Otherwise, Poison Ivy wouldn't be presented as a hero. All those little examples of things,
Well, the funny thing is that with the Poison Ivy situation, even though she's a DC character, she's been kind of co-opted into that Agent of Girl thing that Mark Waid started. And so therein lies that whole thing. You've got people in positions like Mark Waid who are, just being themselves. I mean, your boy Zach he had his run in with Mark Waid. I mean, I think Comicsgate is kind of where it is because of people, that being the prime example with Waid getting your boy Zach's book pulled from Antarctic, which has probably turned out to be a better thing than if it would have gone through Antarctic. Because I don't think that we would have seen Comicsgate explode the way that it has had it not been for that one instance. But I mean, you've got people like that, like him and like Gail Simone and all these other people Zoe Quinn, all these people who just want to hold the title and have the power, but they don't want to have anything to do with the work that is involved or have to deal with any of the people. And I'm sorry, but comics are not the minor leagues when it comes to getting into television and movies. If that is your idea or your mindset when you get into going into comics, you need to go now, because the stuff that you were going to bring in is not going to sell. And you're just going to become bitter and pissed off and end up like Kwanzaa and all the rest of these guys just sitting in their little hate holes, making incredibly bad crap. And nobody's going to buy it.
It's not like Todd McFarlane where he said, I want to see, let's say, Spawn in another medium. I want to see it animated. Like that's different than I'm hoping to just get picked up by TV so I don't have to do the stupid comic book thing.
Exactly.
Like I think we all aspire to see some of our stuff reach new heights, but not lose its originality and credibility and the special touches we put on it as creators.
Right.
I would love to see a lot of my stuff animated, but I also am more than happy to have it as just a comic book, because that's been my goal for this long, was to just make comic books.
Right. No, I think I presented that the wrong way. Then what I was saying was, like, what I have seen mostly from the mainstream is being that they're using comics as the minor leagues, as like a place to come and get like 2 years of writing experience, or almost like a finishing school or something from coming out of wherever they got their degree in English from, or literature or whatever, and then because they're just trying to get into TVs and movies. Whereas,
which is weird, because clearly no one at school told them they were terrible. Yeah. They get to comics, they're terrible. They get to TV, they're still fucking terrible. They get to, like it just gets progressively worse. It's like, quit giving these people that suck at everything they do bigger stages to work on.
That's because we're dealing with a generation of participation trophy winners.
Yeah, exactly.
That's these people, they think that showing up is all that matters. Well, that's not all that matters. Yes, showing up is half the battle. The other half is actually putting in the work and doing quality stuff to get your name out there. But just showing up isn't enough. But the participation trophy mentality that some of these generations and some of these people have out there is what's killing them, because they think that they should get something for nothing. Get your money for nothing and your chicks for free. Unfortunately, that is not the way the world works.
No, you have to.
Parental,
produce something great.
If it is terrible at something, tell them they're fucking terrible at that, and push them in a different direction. Because honestly, like look at Major League Sports. If you suck through high school, and you probably won't even make it to the collegiate level, much less the pro level. But here we have writers that have sucked their entire lives that are somehow in Hollywood making movies, and because we don't like them, we're the bad guy.
Yeah. Well, there is truth to, if you know the right people, you can get in different positions, and there's nothing wrong with that. I had certain friends I would gladly hook up if I had connections for them.
Tom works at Warner Brothers.
Yeah. That's the problem, is they're sending their worst. DC's like, hey, here's this guy. And Warner Brothers is going to trust a guy that they shouldn't, because maybe they weren't really paying attention to their comics as much as they should. because they've been too worried about making crappy movies like Justice League and
Okay.
not actually paying attention to these guys getting handed to them. But we're at this weird point too where usually money ends debates. If it doesn't sell, it's either not good or it's just too weird. If it does sell, it's either really good or it's just pop culture enough that people are going to watch it either way. And we're at this weird phase where clearly it's not about the money anymore. Like these studios, these companies, they have so much money now that they can afford to literally screw up for 20 and 30 years straight. And we know it's going to end badly, but it's just a weird spot to be in where it's you can't even the failure and the losses are not getting through to them. And it's like, we don't want to see all this stuff die just because you guys can't comprehend or accept that you're making terrible decisions right now.
It's like the Netflix effect.
Yeah.
Netflix came out, they made billions of dollars. Then they were like, we're going to start making our own movies. And when they started making their own movies, everything was a knockout. They put their best foot forward. They produced some of the best shit. And then they were like, okay, we'll produce any movie that wants to come out. That's fine. And they opened the doors to anybody and everybody. And now most of the stuff that they put out is fucking woke trash. And they're losing money very, very badly and very, very quickly.
That's because it's about politics now. This is an easy way to indoctrinate a new generation and stuff with the ideas and stuff that they're trying to push and portray. It's like I've always said, if an alien race wanted to come and take over the world, you don't come at us with military and with your military and your technology and stuff like that, because humanity will fight back. You'll always get a pushback when you come in with force. But if the aliens were to come in and take over our entertainment and tell us what to say and what not to say and teach us, that kind of deal, humanity would gladly give over whatever they wanted to those aliens to make more of that. That's the way that I would try to take over the world if I was either a.
Guess what? Kardashians are lizard people and they're fucking taking over the earth. That's my theory.
I'm sure. But that's the way that I've always seen it. That's the way I've always seen it, though. And I think that's where, it's like with Marvel Comics. I've been going through and rewatching the MCU. And I've been picking up on these, we've got a dude in charge of Marvel's movies, cinematic universe, and now their comics. And only thing that he has ever done that I've ever seen have anything to do with comic book movies or comics is he was the executive producer on, or not the executive producer, he was just a producer on, the Iron Man movies, the Avengers movies, and all this other stuff with Kevin Feige. So we're basically putting somebody in charge of our modern day myths and legends, whose only real claim to fame was that he was able to make enough special effects to put people in seats for 2.5 hours and not get up and walk away. He can sell a ticket. We are being sold a bill of goods that's not living up to said bill of goods. And we're eating it in style because now the Marvel Comics, he has said, are going to go away from the character-driven stories, and they're going to be put into where they push the movies. That's not what comics are supposed to be about. It used to be the comics were the main thing, and the movies and TV shows were ancillary. Now it's the other way around. That should not be. And that's what's so great about Comicsgate. It is the exact opposite. It is the old way of doing things, whereas you have character-driven stories backed up by solid, and these character-driven stories are solid, and they keep wanting you more. You keep wanting more. Like when you get issue 1 in your hand and you're done reading it, what you want more than anything in the world, right after you close that page for issue 1, is you want issue 2 in your hand. And that is something that you will never hear from anybody who comes over from the big two. You don't have that excitement of going to the LCSs anymore because Diamond and its predatory practices have run them out of business. You don't have those excitement of, every week going to the comic book store, saving up your money and going to see what was out, trading comic books with your friends and stuff like that. But you get that back here in CG. Like I've told you before, Gat, I now every day I look outside and listen for the postman coming up my drive, coming up through my neighborhood and stuff, because I want to see if there's going to be something dropped off that I've backed or something. I mean, and I'm 40 years old and I got that feeling like I'm, 9, 10, 11 again. That's awesome.
It's like Adam Sandler and what the hell's that movie? Nudie Magazine Day.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it's like when CG Book shows up, man. It's Nudie Magazine Day. You go running out to the end of the driveway. You start screaming like a maniac. You fucking run back in the house. You're like, damn, I got to be careful now because I got to open up this thing. I don't want to ruin my book, So you're real careful when you open it up, It's the tradition now. It's like, yeah, man, I know exactly what you're saying, brother.
Oh, my skills at getting into mailers has like either Gemini mailers where you got to cut the tape or like some kind of padded mailer. I've got those ninja skills back that I used to have back in the day and stuff like that, man. You don't just rip into these things. You gotta like kind of shave off a little bit here. You got to test where that. You got to feel around inside on the outside to feel where the edges are of the book. I mean, come on, because these are like, even though that these are modern day printed books, as in they're printed from a printing press, I attribute Comicsgate books to more of the handmade books that came along before the printing press. I mean, these are individual works of art, and they should be treated as such because this is somebody's blood, sweat, and tears, and it's not just some group of 5 or 6 people sitting around a studio just churning out, boring stuff every day.
Yeah, corporate bullshit.
Yep.
It's run by corporate bullshit. Yeah, that's what we got. You got real guys who sit here every day and they're rowing their oar, like Malin famously says, right? They grab their oar every day. They come on here. They do their Twitter. They're on there doing their promo, and they're helping other guys out. You guys do this whole show. It's more than just about the artists too, right? This whole CG thing, which is the most important thing that Marvel and DC forgot about, right? They totally lost track with who their actual fan and who their actual customer was, right? So you see DC streams, and when people show up, there's 20 people there, and then Comicsgate shows up and there's 150 people there, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, it's like Jim Lee and like a whole bunch of really famous people, and they can't even get 40 people to watch them on stream, right? But Comicsgaters, War Campaign routinely has over 300 people watch them. You see how big Caesar's streams are. Malin used to pull pretty good numbers. Tug and Flash, they used to do really big, huge live streams back in the day. You can't get this from the mainstream guys at all because they're out of touch with the people who are actually buying comic books. And that's what we have the advantage here at Comicsgate. You can kind of get to know us. You can talk to us, whatever. I'm always accessible to almost everyone. If someone has legitimate concerns or questions or whatever, we're right here to talk to you. I'm no big wig. You know that? I ain't no Jim Lee. I ain't tell you to fuck off. It's
brothers,
just...
I'm going to have to hop off here, but I just wanted to quickly say thank you very much for hosting myself and Gat tonight. And for giving us some time to really put some focus on this stuff that's coming up in Jumpstart. And hail the chat, hail my brothers, and I will talk to y'all again here soon.
All right. Thanks so much, man. It was great having you on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, brother. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, it's mutual, and I will definitely talk to y'all again here soon for sure.
All right, buddy. Have a great night.
Later.
Yeah, anyway, to wrap up my thought, it's just, we're no one special here in Comicsgate. We really try to be accessible to the customer, and that's what DC and Marvel kind of lost the whole plot, right? They're out there grandstanding. They want to talk about their politics. Well, I don't want to do none of that. I want to talk to you guys about my projects, and what's going on in Comicsgate, and I feel like this is what we're doing here, man. It's not, people don't want to call it a community, but it's a community. We all care about each other. We fucking want it. We want everyone to succeed, and it's not just the artists. It's the everyday customer that's kind of come together, and we're all on the same level, And I think that's a better way to do business, man. It really is.
Comicsgate has created a 24/7 Comic-Con. is what
Yeah.
it is. It is it's an online 24/7 Comic Con where you can, like you said, you can sit down on a stream and pick a creator's brain, or even direct message him one-on-one and talk to him and ask him a question. You don't get that, and even at live Comic Cons, like the big ones, and they do like the Wizard World Comic Con, you still don't get that kind of connectivity.
Your time's limited.
Yeah, your time is very limited. But here, you've got different people bouncing from stream to stream, different days of the week. There's a Comicsgate stream every night of the week, multiple streams every night of the week.
And they go into the wee hours. I mean, Comicsgate is almost to the point now to where it could be like, I don't know, kind of like something what MTV used to be back in the day where, they used to play music all the time. We talk about comics all the time now on streams and stuff like that.
Funny,
yeah, because, and, the biggest, and I think another thing that, you've got the big DC and Marvel and the big two and all those other guys, just they want to spout off their politics and tell fans to go, fly a kite or whatever. I think another thing about the great thing that, I love about Comicsgate is it's people who actually appreciate the fact that when you talk to somebody who has legitimate concerns and questions and things that they want to know about, just to get to know you as a creator or find out something about this, about that, or the creators always respect them, and they know the fact that they are the money. Comicsgate is the customer is king. Yep. Understand that, write that down, put it on a metal plate somewhere, and let's make it a plaque. Yeah. I don't understand how some people who are quote unquote Comicsgate don't understand the fact that the customer is always right. They say the customer maybe is sometimes right, or this, that, or the other. I'm sorry. I have the money and you have a product to sell to me. I'm right. That's just the way that goes.
Yep. Well, it's like I said, it's the whole disconnect between the people who do the work at DC and Marvel and the people who buy the work. And we just don't have that here, at all. You can hang out on stream with people. You can talk to them on Twitter. You can go into the Discord. It's like you said, it's a 24-hour con, EVS has mentioned several times, I think, why would I even go to cons anymore? I can go on live stream and talk to 1,000 people whenever I want.
Yeah.
Instantaneously.
Yeah. You don't even need to. Yeah. And it's like, I've heard the other side of that argument where when you go to the con, you get the experience and all this other stuff. Look, I can make just as informed choice about what a person's about and the book and the line without having to go and mess with all that other Comic-Con nonsense just as well as I can on YouTube. I mean, the cons now are even becoming a place where it's more people going there to show off their cosplay than anything else. If you get caught wearing the wrong T-shirt or something like that, you'll see Twitter explode with, I'm literally shaking because so-and-so is wearing this shirt, or I saw this person do that, or this, that, or the other. I mean, you got a bunch of crybabies running around trying to concern troll and stuff like that. Wait till Comicsgate starts getting gear and stuff to wear and we show up at cons and stuff like that. Twitter will explode. You will see social media have a meltdown because the real fans will be in there, and that scares everybody else.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think that's the one thing Jason brought up the other day, the Colorsburg of the war campaign, Jason Lewis. He was saying, that's the one thing they don't want us to do is come into the cons now, because it's like their last kind of bastion and their last safe space, so to speak, right? Where they can kind of still be in their dreamland, imagining everything in normal comic book industry world is all great and, happy, la pretty, but it's not, right? And I think if we were to show up there and they would see people, a long line at a couple Comicsgaters tables, it would really ruffle some feathers. And Jason Lewis said that to me. He said it privately, and then he said it on a stream. I can't remember where it was, if it was ours or someone else's, but I think that really would ruffle feathers, man. Like they would it would piss them off to a tremendous degree. But on the other hand, it seems like we've already established ourselves on the internet, and we can do it better than what Marvel and DC's even doing, right? So I don't know, man. For me, I don't know if I'll ever do a con, but I'll think about it eventually, maybe a year or two from now, if someone actually gives a fuck about what I'm doing, beyond the people that kind of know me online,
Mm-hmm.
But right now, that's where we're focused, is the people we can kind of come in contact with every day, that, the customer that we're selling directly to online. That's the only thing that really matters at this point. I'm not worried about getting in a comic book store or anything like that, to be honest with you. We have our own little marketplace here, and we have people that want to buy good books, and for as long as they want to buy them, I'm going to give them good books, and I don't think I really need distribution or anything to help me out. I can do it on my own.
Hell, brother. Casey as I was begging us to do a Las Vegas Comicsgate con.
We might do a war campaign con one day, or just do like a war campaign retreat somewhere, right? Maybe we all go to Vegas, just party.
That is a city that I won't allow myself to go to anymore, just due to the fact that there is a certain limit on my control factor where it kind of.
Thought you were going to say you have warrants out in Vegas.
No, none of that. No, actually, no, I have no warrants that I know of.
That you know of,
yeah, right now. But yeah, there is a. That's just, I know myself, and me going to Vegas is a universally bad idea.
I've never been there before, so I don't know. For the war campaign, I would go. You know that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel you.
We could all get drunk and cause a ruckus in some casino somewhere, or strip club.
You wouldn't last 5 minutes.
I was going to say that.
We'll just all go to jail. It'll be fun. It'll be like a bonding experience. We'll get out the next day. They'll just be like, "Don't come back ever again, boys." That's what they'll tell us.
More legend for the lore.
Yeah. And we can video record some of it. It'll be great. Getting Rose van, everyone hopping Rose van.
I've got a red van too. We could dual wield.
Double up. Vans. Yeah. Let's double up.
I don't know where Rose van has been or what's going on in there. So I don't know if I.
No. He keeps that thing clean, man. He's like kind of OCD about his cars, man. He really keeps upkeep on all of his vehicles. Like I'll be talking to him sometimes and we're just bullshitting. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna go out and change tires, or I'm gonna go change the brakes or whatever. Like he's constantly like, I mean, tiny thing that goes wrong with one of his cars, he investigates it. It's like really weird, man. I don't know if it's a Canadian thing or if it's a row thing or what.
No, I'm good on keeping up with my car. I used to work in I used to manage lube shops, like oil change places.
Okay, yeah.
And we did brakes, and I had ASE certified mechanics and stuff like that. So they would teach me all this stuff. And I did that for about a year and a half. So I know where he's coming from on that vehicle. A lot of people don't really understand the concept of vehicle maintenance. If you want a car to last for a while, then that's what you got to do.
Yeah. And I think I don't know, it's him being in Canada. He's like, the winter comes, so they do all types of different shit. Like I think he changes his actual tires for winter even, right?
I've got the set of winter tires.
Yeah. So I mean, there's certain things you got to do up in the Great North, I guess, that we don't have to do down here. But yeah. Oh, and here I wanted to mention, now that you got this cover brought up, there is a hidden Easter egg on here somewhere, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but maybe perhaps Mr. Huerta's taking a shot at the industry on here on the front cover. Let's see if you can pick it out. I won't tell you if you're right or wrong, right? Ever, if you find it. But yeah.
Hidden industry as a whole, or it's somebody in particular?
I would say in particular and as a whole.
Okay. I think I see it.
Mm. Like I said, I won't confirm or deny it, but there is indeed a hidden Easter egg on this cover.
Yeah, I think I see what you're talking about. But I without it being confirmed or denied, it's just hearsay from me thinking I see something that may not be there.
Okay.
I see two things that could be something.
Mm-hmm. They're both at the bottom. The two things that I see are at the bottom of that
Getting warmer.
cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. The two little things down here.
Yep, that's one.
Oh, that made it real big.
Mm.
And that's the other. Those are the two that I saw.
There's one that I know of, and yeah, you've already found it. Well, I'm not going to get into details because, like I said, I'll let everyone kind of find it for themselves, right? But
This is a sexy cover, though.
oh, dude, Huerta's so good, man. Like, if I had my choice, I'd have Huerta on a book, but he's still working on Sovereign. He's got his own stuff he's got going on, man. I love Huerta's work, though. If I can ever convince him to do a book with me, man, it's happening.
He has that unique and rare ability to definitely make visual sound, as I call it. You know what sound like his lightning is making, and
you can hear the crackle.
Yeah, you can hear the hiss of the steam coming out of that pipe or that plug right there in the background.
Yeah.
You know what that sound is, and there are very, very few people who can do that anywhere these days, as far as making visual auditory or visual sound or whatever you want to call it, because you just look at it and your brain automatically just starts putting noises in with the colors and the shapes and the illustrations that you see.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have a better artist for the cover of this thing. He kind of embodies the whole CG thing, right? I don't know if you guys remember the first time him and Donald came on War Campaign. I think it was the same time. And they were kind of iffy about the whole Comicsgate thing, right? They didn't kind of understand exactly what was going on, maybe not to what degree. We were dealing with the SJWs and shit up to that point, and they came on, and they were really timid, man. But since that day, man, Donald and Andrew both, man, they've been huge Comicsgate guys. Like, I don't know if there's any bigger proponents of this movement as far as artists goes, other than EVS and Malin. But the next two guys in line would definitely be Huerta and Donald, man. I mean, these guys are pushing Comicsgate forward, man, by leaps and bounds. These guys deserve a lot of credit for giving us really credibility, making everything, you see when people get Vestige, they're going to love it. Donald also has Cash Grab going on. People are going to go crazy for that.
Yeah,
look at Sovereign.
Revive.
And I don't know if there's a better drawn book, maybe Cyberfrog, I guess. But other than that, when people get Sovereign, they're going to shit their pants. You know what I mean? So
that was the second Comicsgate book I ever backed was Sovereign.
There you go.
That was the first one I ever actually laid eyes on. It was one of Caesar's, the old school Comicsgate live shows. Then he was highlighting Sovereign, and my fucking jaw was on the floor.
Yeah. I mean, he literally embodies the movement. And so we couldn't have picked a better guy for the cover. He was my first choice, I think. I mean, think about it. At the time, I had already had an EVS cover, right? And I always say, well, there's a handful of guys who I want to work with. I've already worked with Donald. I got an EVS cover. And, kind of like my third choice, not really my third choice, but the person who was left was Huerta, right? And to put him on the cover of this thing, man, it means a lot. He worked really hard on this thing. I mean, obviously, it's beautiful, right?
No, it's gorgeous.
But yeah, and just wait till you see the interview in the book. Like, this dude's fucking 100% CG. We really need to support him in anything he does in the future. Anything he needs from me. I mean, I'll do anything for Andrew. Like, these dudes really have put everything on the line for this movement, right? And they need to get a lot more credit than what they get on a daily basis, I think. So
I think, and Wirtz is one of the most down to earth dudes. We talk about the CG creators, being, one with the fans. He's right there. I mean, he's such a nice guy. He'll talk to almost anybody. He'll joke. He'll laugh with you. Just salt of the earth kind of guy.
Yeah. And that's, 99% of the people you're going to encounter in Comicsgate are really like that, man. We're all super down to earth. We're, like I said, no one acts like they're anything special. We're not, We're all like War Campaign. We all came from the chat. We always say that, but it's true. We were literally nobodies a year and a half ago, right? Not that we're anyone special now, but we're just normal fucking people, man. Like Ro likes to say, we're normal. DC and Marvel, you look at the people they're on their social media. I don't hate to judge people strictly by their social media, but a lot of the shit they do and say, these fucking people are out there. Like, they're obsessed with Trump, or they're fighting, they're like doing feminism shit, or you know what I mean? They're only hiring people of color or lesbians or gays, right? And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is what's wrong with the industry. No one's caring about the quality of work, right? Or what they're actually doing. They're just wanting to kind of grandstand social media wise and talk about identity politics all the time.
Yeah, and then want to virtue signal so hard that you can't hear anything else they're saying. I mean, that's
exactly
that happens. That is becoming more and more a thing. Like, we had the guy who plays the Hulk, Garofalo.
Oh yeah, you going at Mark Ruffalo the other morning was fucking classic.
8 a.m. in the morning, I see this tweet come across, and it's Mark Ruffalo expounding on the greatness of socialism and communism. And I just sent him a tweet. I said, dude, you're virtue signaling so hard, I can't hear anything else you're saying. Talk is cheap coming from someone who makes millions of dollars because of capitalism. It's this rules for me, but rules for thee, but not for me thing, where they want to impose these rules, but then they don't want the rules to apply to them. It's that typical and all too now familiar narcissistic complex that these people have, where they sniff their own farts and they think it smells like roses when actually it smells like shit. It's just that's the world we live in. And but I think that, it's like you were saying, though, they want to, the last time that I don't care who you do or do not pray to. I don't care who you love and who you don't love, as far as sexual orientation or anything like that, as long as it's not breaking any kind of like natural laws, like i.e., doing shit with kids and stuff like that. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Because that shouldn't have anything to do with you writing a superhero comic. Quality. Yes, exactly. That is, when you start bringing that other stuff in, you've taken out all the objectivity, all of the creativity, because now you have put yourself on a path to where you were in this very narrow box. Very small box and very narrow path, where you have to, if you step out of that identity or out of that set of politics, you're either going to get jumped on from one side or jumped on from the other, but you're also going to lose any kind of relevancy of what you were trying to do, or any kind of continuity. And I think that that is what people just don't seem to understand these days, is how important that is. Like, if you want to be able to tell a good story, like the legends of old, these are broad, huge stories that have all these different encompassing things going on all at the same time to make the story and tell the story to where it has a purpose and a meaning, because usually there is some kind of lesson in it or something like that. Like, you take Gilgamesh. This dude was a king who conquered his world. You know what I'm saying? Like, the known world at his time. But he wanted to go out and find something else. So he goes and he talks to somebody who survived the flood. And that person tells him that everything that he's been living for and doing is worthless because it means nothing, because it's fleeting, because he hasn't found that way to make himself immortal. And so he goes back and he takes a look at himself and redoes some of the stuff that he's been doing wrong or something like that. Or, it's just the way any of those old stories go. And that's why we still talk about Gilgamesh 3,500 years after, 6,000 years after the fact, if you include in BC. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you don't, no one's going to give a flying flip about Squirrel Girl in 10 years. No one's going to care about Riri Williams in 10 years. They are going to be they're going to be nothing but little piles of ash on the heap of history. And so I think that's the art of storytelling is dying. And I think that's another thing that Comicsgate is doing so well, is they're bringing back that art of actually telling a engaging story that people want to hear over and over again, not just on the first issue, but they want to hear it again on the 10th issue and the 20th issue and so forth and so on down the line.
Yeah, I agree.
Very good point.
I would say in conclusion, it's like the whole point of Comicsgate is that we don't give a fuck about all that other shit, right? We literally don't care who you're sleeping with. We don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. We don't care if you're for or against abortion. I don't give two fucks. What we care about is quality stories and escapism, like you guys said earlier, and bringing people quality entertainment, like how they used to read when they were a kid. You cannot get it from these fucking people anymore. The only place you can get it is at Comicsgate, right? And even a handful of other indie creators out there. And maybe they should be Comicsgate and they don't even realize it is the problem with that, right? Because Comicsgate has a point. We're not just some indies who's been out here trying to do their thing for a long time. Indie just means you ain't been hired yet by the industry, right? We're not that. You know that? We're not fucking indies. So we're Comicsgate. We've already put our foot down and said, no, fuck you. You're wrong. Everything you're doing's wrong. Your business model's wrong. The quality of your work is shit. You don't understand your own characters that you fucking, like you said, there's no continuity. Fuck, the X-Men's totally fucked. Like, everything's fucked now, dude. Right? And they've took things that we all grew up loving and ruined them, and we're not willing to give them any more chances. And at this point, we said, fuck it. We've created our own marketplace where we can now buy the things that we all love again. And who gives a shit at this point what they do, honestly? They can keep making these terrible movies. I'll still bootleg them and watch them just to make fun of them, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not giving them any of my money. I'll tell you that right now. I'm not giving Marvel or DC a fucking dime. So I'll bootleg their shitty movies and then judge them on the internet with the rest of you guys, right? Mm-hmm. We'll have fun making fun of all the stupid shit they're doing, and we'll look at their shitty comic books and laugh like we always do. But at the same time, we're going to be creating our own that, hopefully in the future, not just for us, and even though the place in the marketplace we have now is small, in the future it can be big. We can be a true alternative to what they're doing in the mainstream. It can keep growing. So anyone that tells you Comicsgate's dead is crazy. We're about to show off with this magazine and show everyone exactly what we got. And Marvel and DC could only hope to be as good as what we are.
Hell to that.
Yep. Now, like I said earlier, this magazine is only going to blow the doors wide open. 2020 is going to be Comicsgate's year. Yep. And even honestly, it's still even in its infancy. I mean, we're just getting started. But the future is bright and the sky is the limit. And you guys better watch out.
Hell.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Thank you so much, GAT, once again for coming on and showing off your stuff and shooting the shit with us for a while. This stream went way longer than I anticipated, but hey, you can't just cut off a good thing,
I mean, we get to talk, and this is how that shit goes. I think every time I come on, you're like, damn, this stream went way longer than intended. I think it's my fault, but, I get on a roll and I get high, so I get going, brothers. Hell, though, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No, my pleasure. Everybody out there, hail to the chat. Thank you
Hail
guys
to the
all
chat.
for joining us tonight. You've been wonderful. Go back Vestige before it's too late. Get in on Joe Ball Super Harem before it closes up. And definitely keep your eyes out for CG Jumpstart. We'll do this again next week. Until then, hail.
Hail.
Hail.